Hi, welcome to Dig into China. I'm Dong Sheng. Today, let's discuss the issue of delayed retirement in China. Recently, this topic has gained a lot of attention, sparking widespread debate. A key point that often comes up in these discussions is that delayed retirement is closely linked to the country's social security system. Many believe the push for delayed retirement stems from a gap in the pension fund, where contributions fall short of covering payouts, forcing the government to resort to this measure. This topic has been widely discussed lately, but I believe the core issue still hasn't been fully addressed. I'd like to raise two key points. First, the concept of delayed retirement is flawed. It gives the false impression that everyone is employed and merely postponing retirement by a couple of years, working a bit longer before receiving their pension. In truth, many people in China are dealing with unemployment, and for some, even making it to retirement age is uncertain. How can we talk about delaying retirement under such circumstances? This term is misleading and conceals the real challenges China is facing today. Second, many people tend to compare China's social security system directly with those in Western countries, but this comparison is flawed and questionable. I believe China's system operates independently from the rest of the world. It's fundamentally different. Its uniquely Chinese characteristics have shaped a system with an entirely distinct nature. In today's program, I'll provide a fresh perspective on the overall concept for you. First, let's turn to the data to explore the issue in China's age structure and determine if there are problems with the pension system. First, let's examine the recent announcement from the Chinese government regarding delayed retirement. Based on publicly available information, we can clearly see the details of this plan. On September 13th, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress approved the decision to delay retirement, and the State Council outlined a gradual implementation method. According to the documents, China will take approximately 15 years to gradually raise the retirement age for male workers from 60 to 63 and for female workers from 50 and 55 to 55 and 58 respectively. What is the underlying purpose of China's delayed retirement plan? From a general perspective, delayed retirement is part of a global trend responding to the impacts of an aging population. Currently, China's retirement age is lower than the average for major economies, while its aging population is growing rapidly. This discrepancy creates significant pressure on the social security system, making reform essential. Delaying retirement is therefore not just an option but a necessary measure to align the working population with the needs of an increasingly elderly society. Let's examine the data. In 2022, the percentage of China's population aged 65 and older surpassed 14% and is now around 15%. Over the past decade, the curve showing the proportion of elderly people has become steeper, indicating that the rate of aging is accelerating. Another key figure is the working age population. Those between 15 and 64 years old. This percentage peaked around 2008 to 2009 and has been declining ever since, now dropping below 70%. The current trend in China is a decreasing labor force coupled with increasing number of retirees. Next, let's look at a map showing retirement age across various countries. It's evident that China's retirement age is noticeably lower than that of major economies like the US, Japan, and France. In fact, China ranks among the lowest in terms of retirement age compared to other leading economies. This means Chinese workers have shorter working years and spend more time in retirement receiving benefits. Having looked at the data, you can now see the narrative put forth by China's official media. The general argument is that the aging population in China is a serious problem, placing immense pressure on the social security system. At the same time, the current retirement age is too low, worsening the pension fund deficit. Given the difficulty of rapidly increasing youth employment, the most practical solution is to delay retirement, aiming to match the retirement age of 65 common in developed countries. This approach is seen as aligning China's retirement system with global standards. On the surface, this narrative may appear convincing, but a deeper analysis reveals major logical gaps. In my view, it overemphasizes one aspect of the issue while deliberately ignoring two other important factors. What is being exaggerated? It's the degree of aging in China and its current effects on the social pension system. Why do I say this? Let's examine the statistics from the Statista on the proportion of the population aged 65 and older. In 2024, Japan ranks the highest globally, and among the top countries all are European nations except for Puerto Rico, with elderly populations exceeding 20%. China, on the other hand, is ranked 61st. This suggests that at this point, China is not the region most affected by aging. In fact, there are at least 60 countries facing more severe aging challenges than China. If China's pension system were truly on the brink of collapse solely because of its population structure, then the 60 countries ranked above China should have already experienced bankruptcy and failure. However, this is not the reality. Thus, analyzing the pension issue only through the lens of population structure does not offer a comprehensive understanding. Second, another issue is that Chinese media often downplays the problem of insufficient employment, which relates solely to unemployment rates rather than demographics. The current Chinese government has mismanaged the economy, leading to widespread job losses. The higher the unemployment rate, the fewer contributors there are to the social pension system, creating funding challenges. Therefore, alongside the demographic factors, high unemployment rates directly impact the social pension system. Yet the Chinese government chooses to completely ignore this aspect. Third, Chinese media's narrative also downplays the management and investment issues related to social pensions, which is even more important than the previous point. Social pensions represent a public asset, so effective management and investment are essential. I want to ask this: is the investment return on this asset very low or even resulting in losses? Furthermore, is the overall investment environment for social pension poor? Government policies may have created an unfavorable investment climate, negatively impacting the return on social pensions and, consequently, public welfare as a whole. If the answers to these questions are yes, shouldn't those responsible be held accountable? These issues are indeed critical. Given the 3 points I've raised, if we try to understand China's social pension system and the related issue of delayed retirement solely through the lens of its population structure, I can confidently say that this perspective is fundamentally flawed. I can candidly state that China's social pension system is destined for bankruptcy and will ultimately face major challenges. The main reason is not the demographic challenges which require time to manifest. The pressing issue right now is the high unemployment rate and the overall collapse of the Chinese economy, which are crucial factors. The second critical reason is that there are substantial problems with the management and the investment of China's social insurance funds, including social welfare overall. This means that the entire investment is ineffective. From an asset management perspective, the essential questions are: what type of asset is China's so-called social pension fund? Who manages it? Who is responsible for it? So what are these investment returns? These answers are crucial. By addressing these questions, we can gain a clearer insight into the true nature of socialism with Chinese characteristics. Examine the operational status of China's social pension system, we can see that issues have emerged for quite some time. The statistics illustrate the ratio of surplus to income for social pension in China. The upper curve represents the values with fiscal subsidies included, while the lower curve shows the figures without these subsidies. It is evident that since 2016, the latter has become a negative territory. This indicates that China's social pension system has been facing a deficit for the past 8 years, relying on government subsidies to remain operational. Data indicates that the number of months that social pensions can be sustained in urban China has fallen from 18.5 months in 2011 to approximately 11 months in 2023. In reality, the operational challenges within China's pension funds have been apparent for years, requiring ongoing support from state fiscal subsidies. Faced with this situation, the Chinese government sought solutions and organized a group of scholars and experts for research. After extensive discussions, the proposed solution was to delay the retirement age. Specifically, this involves extending the period during which individuals contributed to the pension system while reducing the duration for which they receive benefits. This is a rather straightforward and a somewhat blunt approach. Their research results suggest that if the retirement age is delayed, starting in 2024, with women retiring 1 year later every 2 years and men every 6 years, the surplus in the social pension system will rapidly turn around. According to their projections, the effects of this delay will be noticeable in the 2030s. If retirement is not delayed, the pension fund is expected to be depleted by 2047. Conversely, if the retirement age is extended, the surplus could exceed 100 trillion yuan by then. Whether or not you believe the data, the experts certainly do. This research ultimately seeks to demonstrate that delaying retirement is the only feasible and logical solution, asserting that it will fundamentally enhance China's social pension system. In reality, there are many similar studies in mainland China, and their conclusions tend to be similar, effectively supporting the rationale behind official policies and showing a tendency to flatter the authorities. This situation is fairly straightforward to explain. The Chinese government doesn't want to keep subsidizing social pensions. Essentially, the funds in China's treasury aren't intended for ordinary citizens. They are for Xi Jinping's initiatives, spending on large-scale foreign aid, weapons, gold, and various strategic resources. Xi certainly doesn't want to continually divert fiscal resources to support social pensions, so he's opting for delaying retirement and letting individuals manage on their own. However, this can't be said directly, so the government shifts all the responsibility to the issue of demographic structure. In reality, China's level of population aging doesn't even place it among the top 50 countries worldwide. The real reason for the drastic decline in social pension funds is the high unemployment rate that has developed in recent years. The Chinese government is understandably hesitant to acknowledge this true cause, as it contradicts the narrative of a stable and improving economy that is supposedly outpacing the rest of the world. Moreover, social pensions function as a commercial fund managed by specialized institutions and professionals. In China, the National Social Security Fund oversees the investment and management of social pension funds uniformly. The legal representative of the China Social Security Fund is Liu Wei, and this information is publicly accessible. When individuals lose money in mutual funds, they typically vent their frustration online, criticizing fund managers and the related institutions. Yet, when it comes to China's pension and social security insurance, there is a noticeable silence on these matters. This indicates that many Chinese people have been significantly misled by the government regarding public discourse, leading them to misidentify the core issues. The core issue is that there are significant problems with investment and management of pension funds, highlighting failures in fund management and accountability. If the social pension funds were managed effectively, they could achieve substantial growth and wouldn't deplete so quickly. Unfortunately, the actual returns on China's social pensions are quite low. What is China's social pension actually investing in? According to the official guidelines for managing social pension fund investments, these funds are limited to domestic investments. The investment scope includes bank deposits, central bank bills, various bonds, pension products, and stocks in funds. Furthermore, investments must be diversified. For instance, the combined proportion of stocks and funds cannot exceed 30% of the total value. To be blunt, the investment scope of China's social pension is quite similar to that of ordinary retail investors, as both are confined to domestic investments. Over the years, the return in China's financial and stock markets have been very low. Just avoiding losses is a reason to celebrate. For instance, the Shanghai Composite Index has fallen from 4,800 points to 2,800 points over the past decade. Earning money in such a declining market is incredibly difficult, harder than climbing to the sky. Even the so-called investment guru Warren Buffett would leave the Chinese stock market empty-handed. China's financial market not only provides dismal returns, but it also suffers from inadequate institutional framework and legal standards, resembling a casino rife with deception. Such a broken financial environment cannot effectively support the business's financing. Consequently, even now, the primary method of financing for Chinese enterprises remains bank loans rather than stock market financing. Bank financing creates a challenge. When the banks extend the loans to business, they also generate an equivalent amount of deposit assets that are counted in the broad money supply. As a result, the more a country relies on bank financing, the higher its total broad money supply becomes. This helps explain the substantial disparity between the M2 and the GDP ratios of China and the United States. This chart clearly shows that in 2023, the ratio of M2 to GDP in the United States is 76%. In contrast, China's M2 is 232% of its GDP. The United States boasts a highly regulated financial investment market with significant returns, enabling business to primarily rely on equity financing. M2 reflects idle money in the economy. In other words, the greater the dependence on bank financing, the less dynamic the economy becomes, resulting in a buildup of idle funds. China is caught in this vicious cycle, where deteriorating investment returns adversely impact social pension funds, further exacerbated by this challenging environment. In China's difficult investment landscape, managing pension funds is increasingly unsustainable. The bankruptcy is inevitable. This indicates that, constrained by various realities, China's social pension funds are essentially a devaluing asset that cannot perform its intended function. As this troubled asset cannot be restructured, it will continue to deteriorate. In essence, Chinese citizens are consistently pouring resources into this financial black hole disguised as social pension insurance. If a country's investment market is underperforming, there are still alternative strategies. For example, Singapore and Hong Kong have developed different solutions. The government of Singapore Investment Corporation (GIC) manages public funds and invests across global markets, including both emerging and developed economies. This allows them to shift funds to developed markets like the United States, providing greater flexibility and the potential for higher returns, even if domestic investments falter. Even in Hong Kong's free trade zone, where the government mandates contributions to a mandatory fund, residents can invest in global markets like North America and Europe, which is significantly better than the situation in mainland China. This underscores my earlier assertion that, despite its issues, Hong Kong is still a much better position than those living in mainland China. In contrast, investments in mainland China, whether personal or public, are limited to a deteriorating market, making it nearly impossible to achieve any returns on investment. In summary, China's retirement and pension issues are not just demographic structure. They represent a broader social problem. While some claims that the country's pension system is a Ponzi scheme, I think this perspective is too limited. In reality, it's not just the social and the pension insurance that resembles a Ponzi scheme. Almost all investments in China can be seen this way. The entire People's Republic of China could be described as a Ponzi republic, which is at the core of the issue. In a Ponzi republic, the pension system can't thrive on its own. There was once a debate about whether China leans more towards capitalism or socialism. In reality, it's neither. It's a Ponzi state. So, if you find yourself in a Ponzi republic, don't expect much from retirement benefits. Simply managing to keep your money from being entirely drained is already a win. Thank you so much for watching, and if you found this video helpful, please like it, drop a comment below, and hit the subscribe button right here. It really helps YouTube suggest my video to others. I'll be back with more content soon. Until then, stay well.